Thank you, Danielle. So, today I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. So, HL7 Australia acknowledges and pays respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of Australia, and the continuation of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people. So, for today's agenda, this is mostly about preparing for ballot. Uh, to get the remaining ballot readiness items across the line. So today we'll start with usual business and updates, including approval of the previous minutes and any work group news. We'll then move to the AU Core and FireG project items, which focus the remaining activities we need before ballot. So this includes uh, review of results for the AU Core block vote and confirming any outcomes or follow-up actions. We'll work through the key ballot readiness checks, including AFMM1 review, AU Variance Statement, QA.html review, and ballot scope reviews and approval. And we will finish by confirming the next meeting arrangements and any final actions. All right. So let's go through usual business. We'll dive. Oh, sorry, no. Hang on a minute. Yeah, we'll just dive into the minutes from the last call. So these were circulated last week, I believe. And let me just load this up, and hopefully everyone can see that. So here we have the agenda items, we have the attendees, and all of the minutes and any motions passed are included here. So this looks fairly comprehensive. Uh, so does anyone need any more time to review this before we move to approve these meetings, or does anyone have any amendments? Okay, so not hearing anything, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes. If anyone would,
I'm I'm happy to motion later. So, thanks.
thank you very much. So I might I ask for a second here, don't I? Does anyone like to second that motion before I launch the poll?
Rose Murgalado here. I'm happy to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will look to launch the poll to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Okay, launching the poll now. So hopefully you all see this on your screen. If you are unable to vote, please pop your vote in the chat or call it out and we'll include it if I can find the chat area, which I just have. All right, we're at 76%. We're almost there. I'll do a countdown shortly. Okay, we're at 80%. I'll do a countdown now. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, I'll end the poll. So for the minutes, we have including Danielle and Brett in the chat. So we have 17 affirmative, 0 negative, and 7 abstain. Oh, I'll show the results. So that motion has passed. Okay, moving on. Close that now. So action items. So I think there's some outstanding actions from previous meetings. So I might quickly run through these and see if there's any updates or anything we can close out today. So starting with the first one, do we have Corey? Because the first action item, or maybe Andrew, the first action item is related to AU-based ticket for dot code, bringing discussion around lowing for SNOMED CT.
I think that is still open, but I'll follow up to write an update at the next one.
I'm wondering if we can remove that from our action items, given it's an AU base action.
I think we just have to confirm that a ticket on AU base was raised and then like that's job done. And I actually think there was one, Brett. I think we have one. We can just double check that and then I agree. Once there's an AU base ticket that got raised, then we can close the action.
Okay, perfect. So that's that one covered. So the other two items, or the other two actions were for Angus. Do we have Angus in the line?
No.
No. Okay. Well, those two might need to also be carried over to the next meeting. And we have Michael, and there's two actions here, revisiting the AU Core inclusion principles, and the other one was creating a Confluence page for harmonization group outputs.
Yep,
Do you have
they're still both outstanding. We'll look to do the getting it on the work group meeting agenda, the inclusion principles in the next few meetings once we get through all this ballot stuff. So that's still on me. I'll just find an appropriate meeting we can put that in for now. Yep.
Sort of related to that, is that AU CDI is taking, I guess, our lead and looking to develop uh, their inclusion principles for AU CDI content, specifically for when you tag it as like core. Um, and I would like to invite Kylin, the clinical lead, the design lead, to present to in the AU Core work group around the principles they're thinking about and get some of that feedback from us because I think it's very important in the technical space that we are very clear on why, when, and how things can be tagged as like part of a core use case within a UCDI. So I don't think that's an action item, but I just wanted to say I think that's relevant, and I'd really like to have that on maybe the next call or maybe the one after. I can follow up with Kylie and see when she's available.
Cool.
And the last one's on me as well. Tor's just come back from leave today, so I'll follow that up in the next week or two as well to get that harmonization info out.
Perfect. Thank you. That closes out the action items for today. Spark testing event. This is just snuck in.
I can talk to that
No
one
worries, thank
still
you.
here. Yep. So we're going to do a proper report back in the next meeting because literally this Spark testing event was yesterday. But really just wanted to highlight here that it was a huge success. We had a full room and we had something like over 50 different types of connections that you can see there from that diagram there, that very messy diagram, but that's kind of shows how much connecting we were doing in a very compressed one-day event. It was pretty amazing. We had 5 different connected test scenarios. They're represented by the different colors on that diagram or each of the different test scenarios. So you can see we had a really good spread, lots of different connections through the different scenarios. So it was amazing success. So thank you for everyone who came to that event. Hopefully you all got a lot out of it. I think we certainly all did. And we'll do more of an in-depth report back in the next meeting, but just wanted to highlight too what a great day it was. So thank you, everyone.
Cool. Thank you, Michael. So for the encounter record, it looks like EOI have closed. It closes today. So this is a expression of interest, open for AU Encounter Record Project. So we've had 2 discovery workshops already, one in Hobart early this year, one in Brisbane recently, and there's been strong interest in progressing this work. So we've put out an EOI, which looks like it closes today. If anyone would like to be involved, you can scan that QR code, complete the type form. I think it's a quick sign-up process, and that will add you to the mailing list and be involved as any project develops. And if it gets enough interest, I think the intention is to establish this as another HL7 Australia project, like under the AU Core working group.
I'll just add to that,
Sure.
Landon. We have had lots of interest. It's great. But yeah, if you want to last minute add yourself to that list, we're actually going to look to talk about a project proposal for AU Encounter Record in our next AU Core work group meeting. So in a fortnight's time. So we'll talk to work group through that in a fortnight, but certainly sign up so you get on the mailing list. Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Actually, if I can just add an extra comment onto that, sorry. What it means when you sign up to the EOI is saying, really, I want to keep being involved. So we won't be sending. So the Sparked program who's going to be working through Encounter Record will only be contacting the people who, I guess, signed up and said, I'm interested to hear more about it. Um, if they've signed up to the EOI, otherwise we won't be sending email contact around that. So, or meeting invites or any of those things as we're preparing. So I think that's really kind of the level of involvement it just means at this point.
Cool. Thanks, Danielle. All right, move on to the next one. So for the Brisbane Connectathon, I believe tickets have been released, and I think there's still some availability last time I checked. Um, so for this one, if you register, I think there's expected to be 4 tracks. AU Core, you're requesting Smart App Launch and a new Connected Care Consumer track. And the connected care consumer track, I think, builds on the demonstrator work from the Canberra demonstration last year, and tries to move the art of the possible into these workflows in practice. And I believe Heath may be a contact if you had some thoughts into how that track might run. So any expression of interest, contact Heath for the connected care journey track to help more integrated end-to-end exchange scenarios.
If you can go to the next slide.
Ah, okay. Yep. You can talk to this.
So basically the Connectathon's going to have 4 tracks. It's the usual suspects around AU Core you're requesting in Smart App Launch, but as Landon's saying, we're basically bringing in a 4th one, which is trying to actually go across those tracks and beyond. For those that remember, back in November, there was a connected care demonstrator held by the Department of Health, Disability and Aging, and it was dubbed the Art of the Possible. And what we're looking to do is move from, I guess, basically now getting 6 months on, looking at demonstrating that the what is possible in the future is actually, what is actually happening now. So 6 months on, there is some reality with what we were actually demonstrating, and it all comes down to what we're building here in Sparked and the community around it, the vendors, etc. So we had a number. If you can go to the next slide. Before we do move on from that slide, sorry, just there is that expression of interest link there with that QR code. If you're interested in participating in any of those tracks, you can actually indicate your preferences for a track. But if you specifically want to be part of the connected care journey, you can do that, because I'll actually be starting to contact people and start to run weekly calls to basically get prepared for that track in August. These sorts of events take some time, some preparation to basically coordinate, work out what the actual scenarios are that we want to run. So that's why we're starting a regular catch up to sort of pad that out. So just on the next slide, these are the sorts of journeys that we actually did as part of the demonstrator. And although we're not tied to these particular scenarios, this one is Alex's, and we've got another one next. We can see that we're going across multiple healthcare settings, and we're looking at how do we exchange information across those using the various standards that we've got, like you requesting AU Core, Smart App Launch, and others. So on the next one, we've got Yuri's story. So you can see we've kind of got some already some detailed thinking about some particular scenarios, and what we'll be looking to do is match up vendors that are interested in participants and do a bit of a hackathon around a particular station here. We've got some virtual care, we've got hospitals, we've got specialists, we've got aged care, etc., ambulance and emergency departments. So hopefully we'll be able to slot people in and do something that is of interest to you. So thank you for that, and sign up for on the EAOI if you are interested.
Great. Thank you very much, Heath.
Danielle's got a hand up.
I
Danielle, you got
do.
your hand up?
I wanted to ask a question around so the connected care scenarios are really quite comprehensive, and there's going to be like a whole bunch of stuff. Is it possible if someone just can't be there on the day that they could provide a remote endpoint? And if that's the case, should they sign up to the if so, I guess that's A, is that going to be supported? And then B, if it is, would that be like signing up to the connected care um, track so that they get into all the meetings and everything, but wouldn't necessarily have connectathon tickets?
I think that's probably reasonable if you start to attend these meetings leading up and you then get to a point where you've got an endpoint, but can't actually make it to Brisbane, and get a ticket, then I think it's still a valuable exercise, given that we are actually going to be running these weekly catch-ups along the way. So yes, I think so, but we can have that discussion, I guess. So sign up and join the calls, and then we'll work it out from there. This is the first time we've done it, so we are sort of winging it. But I think we want to be inclusive.
Great. Thank you very much. And actually, Danielle, I think this is a new slide I haven't seen. Is it okay if you talk to this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, Brett is publication manager, but this is easy. So ballot's open. The current ballot sign up is really for us. It's for AU Core. So AU Core R3 is going to go to ballot very shortly, and there will be an AU base that is supporting that is going out for ballot. And so the ballot period, which is sign up, is out now. So. We've got the QR code for where you go to get more information from that. Now, to be a voter in the ballot, of course, you have to be a current HL7 Australia member, which is either as an organisational member and you're a registered known voter for that organisation, or an individual member. And if you actually want to participate as a voter in this, but you don't yet have membership, then again, use that QR code. And it's going to take you to some information about like how do you sign up, like how do you become a member. Um, and then once you're actually planning to be a voter and you have membership, then you need to absolutely make sure you have a Confluence or Jira, well, slash Jira, because it's the same thing, the HL7 account, because that is actually how you vote. And then the last part is sign up. So once you've got that account, you'll be able to see the registration page and you will actually be able to sign up as a voter and say, I'm going to vote on core, I'm going to vote on base, and both. I'm going to vote on both. Um, so I think that's really the gist of it. Is there anything, Brett, that you wanted to cover in addition to that?
No, nothing to add. I think that's fine with doing that. If there's any issues, yeah, please do use the email ballot at hl7.au, and yeah, I'll help you out.
So that's ballot at hl7 dot.
AU, yeah,
Oh, there's no .com, no .org, just hl7.au.
exactly.
Wow. Okay, that's fancy. I've just popped it in the chat. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so I think this brings us to the first item from our agenda. Who was up first? Is this Dushi? Oh no, this is the block vote. Who was scheduled to talk to the block vote?
That's me. Sorry, just trying to find the
No,
right button.
thanks, Michael. Do you
Yep.
want me to drive, Michael?
Yeah, it's only this one slide, so it's fine.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
So yes, we had another electronic block vote that went out of session between our last meeting. So just as the IG authors are making a few updates to get our AU Core Fire IG ready for ballot, we find a few little missions and little issues that just need to be resolved. So this was one of those. So basically, we had some of our new AU Core profiles were referencing resources that we didn't have in the capability statements. So anything that's a must support element in one of our profiles and has references to other resources, we just need to include them in the capability statement. So they were just missing from the capability statement. There was a JIRA issue, which was that fire 57789 that was raised to add those items in. So we had an electronic vote for that. It was open for a week from the 2nd to the 8th of July. You would have seen, if you're on the mailing list, you would have seen an email. We also posted it in Zort as well. So we had 17 voters for that. So there was 17 affirmative, 0 negative, and 0 abstained. So that motion has passed, and we'll make those changes and apply them to the fire OG. That was about it on that.
Okay, Landon, that's me. I might actually grab the screen if that's all right, because there's a few slides we need to go through.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Go for it.
Oh, that's all right. So I think I'm sharing. Can everyone see my screen with AFMM review?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So sorry, apologies first. I was getting a pop-up that my connection is unstable, so I had to switch my camera off. Apologies for that. All right, so this next item is really about the FMM1 review for the 5 new AU Core profiles that we agreed on and added for this release. So I'll just run through this slide quickly as a reminder or information for anyone who's new on the call. So FMM levels, we'll see them in all HL7 structures, whether they're profiles or they're terminology resources, and they really mark where in the development cycle the profile or the resource or artifact is. So they range from 0 to 5, and then we have normative. So 0 really means this is an early thing. It's in the progress, draft in progress. And then AFMM1 marks that the profile is ready for implementation, which really means that it's technically sound and ready for broader testing. So it needs to build cleanly. So the QA report needs to show 0 errors or warnings that are not accepted by the group, and the group needs to be satisfied that it's substantially complete before we can go into that wider testing. And then the next step would be FMM1, where we need evidence of testing between independently developed systems, but we are not assessing that today. So this slide is showing the new profiles that we added for this release. So for each of these 5 artifacts, we confirm that they build with 0 errors and warnings, which means meets the technical requirements for AFMM1. So for the composition, diagnostic report, document reference, and medication dispense profiles, we are asking group to actually endorse AFMM1 today, and then you'll notice that AU Core endpoint is marked as conditional, and I'll explain why on the next slide. So with the AU Core endpoint, it's really not a quality issue or a technical issue with the profile in AU Core. So the QA results are clean. The QA results is still showing 0 errors and 0 warning for the endpoint profile. The reason it's conditional is that AU Core endpoint profile is derived from AU base endpoint profile, which is currently at draft level. And before AU Core point can be endorsed as AFMM1, the FIRE group, who owns the AU base profile, needs to endorse AU base endpoint profile as AFMM1. So, and that should happen in the meeting next week, I think. So the recommendation is really to endorse AU Core endpoint as AFMM1 conditionally today, subject to AU base endpoint receiving AFMM1 endorsement from the FIRE group. And then, yeah, I'll have a summary slide with the overall recommendations for this item. So the recommendation is to endorse the AFMM1 for composition, diagnostic report, document reference, and medication dispense profiles. And for AU Core endpoint, the recommendation is to endorse AFMM1, conditional on AU base endpoint, first being endorsed as AFMM1 by Fiverr Group. So I think I'll just stop here for any questions or comments about this Jira ticket before I go or make a motion. None? Okay. I'll then make a motion that AU Core profiles for composition, diagnostic report, document reference, and medication dispense are accepted as AFMM1, and that we conditionally accept AU Core endpoint as AFMM1, subject to AU base profile being endorsed as AFMM1 by Fiverr Group.
Thank you. Do we have anyone that would like to second that motion?
Second,
second that.
Stuart. We'll put Stuart as the seconder. So given that, I will launch a poll. I need to relaunch. Okay. Feel free to put in your votes, and if you can't vote, feel free to shout it out or pop it in the chat.
That's like the fastest vote I've seen. That's great. Count it down like we're already over 90%.
Yeah, we're over 90%. I'll count it down. That's some quick voting. I think could be at 100 with your vote in the chat. So I think I might just be able to end it here. Well, I'll still count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll share the results. So in the chat we had Danielle. So that brings the affirmative to 27. Is that correct? Yes. So affirmative 27, abstain 1. So that motion has passed.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, I'll then go on to the next agenda item, which is AU Variance Statement. So, okay, so we've got a screenshot of AU Core Variance Statement page here. So all HL7 AU implementation guides are required to include one. So this page actually shows how the implementation guide aligns with the HL7 AU variance requirements, and whether it varies from AU base or AU base and AU core for downstream profiles. So AU core doesn't have any variance from AU base. This is what we really expect, as AU core profiles are derived from AU base profile where these are available. So since we last looked at this page, the only change is that AU Core now includes one additional profile resource that's not available in AU Base. So AU Core has a document reference profile, which is derived from the file resource document reference and not an AU Base profile because the one doesn't exist in AU Base. The AU Core sex assign and birth is still listed as before. I don't think there is a voting required for this item. So we just wanted to make the group aware of this new change in the variance statement before we publish the for the ballot, AU Core for ballot. But if actually, I'll just stop here. Are there any questions or comments or? I think if anything comes up, if anyone believes that there are any other variances that should be recorded, you can always let us know either in the meeting here or just contact us outside of the meeting. No? Okay. Shall we then move on to the next agenda item? All right. Okay, so the next one is the QA report review. So the QA report gets produced by the tooling. So for every build of the IG, we get this report that tooling produces with validation, with the messages that come out of validation of the IG. So the majority of warnings and messages in the AU Core QA report have already been reviewed and accepted by the group in the last publication cycle. So we are only going to be looking at what's changed today. So we have one new warning that requires the group acceptance. And there is also a number of small number of new information messages. And these information messages don't really require acceptance. They don't affect publication. So I'll just briefly mention those before we look at the warning, actually. So these are really messages that, like a few types. Some of them are inherited from file specification, where, for example, there is an extra character or an unknown character in one of the V2 mappings that are defined in the file profile, or we are getting some information messages around artifacts in the IG not having OIDs, which is not a requirement for us and has actually been confirmed to come out of the tooling changes to fix validation issues around OID checking in HL7 International. It doesn't apply to us, and it's actually been confirmed it doesn't apply to us and may be changed in the next release of the IG publisher. Other information messages we are getting are probably expected at this with the current draft content in the IG. So, for example, for the new resources that we just endorsed as AFMM1, they all have status of draft, and the implementation guide standard says status is trial use. So the tooling just produces this information message to say that these are not consistent. But again, these are not requirement for AU Core ballot publication approval. So I might actually jump to the QA report to look at the warning itself. So just bear with me, please.
We're going to go have a look at the endpoint ones.
Yes, yeah, we are
Cool.
just going to look at the endpoint warnings, but
Yep.
the page is really loading slowly for me, so just please bear with me.
Well, at the moment we can only see the slide. I don't know if you're only sharing PowerPoint or if you're actually sharing a screen.
I'm just was sharing the screen. I'll just
Okay.
can you see
Oh
the
no, I can
QA
see it
report?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
very small for me. Could
All
you
right,
zoom
yeah.
in
I'll
at
make it
least
bigger.
twice, maybe 3 times?
Is that better?
Again? That's better for me. I don't know. Other people on the line, is that big enough for you?
Yeah, I'm with you, Danielle. That's good.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll just scroll down to jump to the new warning. As you can see, there's lots of content in here. So if we scroll down. All right. So this is the new warning we are getting. We are actually getting 2 warnings for the new endpoint examples. And the warnings around no definition could be found for the URL values. So these are actually endpoint examples. So we use example addresses, and these addresses are fictional endpoints. So they don't have URLs that resolve. And without that URL that's resolving, the IG publisher is actually flagging this as a warning and saying, well, I can't resolve this, so that no definition can be found. So this is really similar or the same pattern as other warnings we are getting for other examples, like this warning 9 that we are getting for identify URLs. So our recommendation is to accept this warning as expected exception, but I'll just would anyone like to see more about this? Would anyone like me to go to the actual example and show what that's like, or are we happy with what's displayed on the screen currently? Yes, Danielle?
So I think there's actually a problem. Okay, we'd get the warning anyway, and
Mm-hmm.
so just in general, what I'd like us to land on is a position that where we use uh properly registered domains, and they are registered domains for the purposes of examples, like example.org, example.com. Uh, I don't remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they are registered for the purpose of examples. That's fine. What I don't think is registered is example.com.au. I don't
Yeah.
think that's I think we have to drop the .au. I think that breaks the
Mm-hmm.
registered domain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I just noticed that as I was looking at the warning on the screen, I just noticed that .com.au. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we can just do a
Mm-hmm.
technical correction on
Mm-hmm.
that one, but then just in principle accept that examples can use what are the internationally registered example domains, and then accept that any warnings that are saying, "Oh, I can't resolve that," we just go in principle. We accept that that's just an outcome of using the proper example domains, is what I'd like us to do.
So what are the allowed ones? Example.org and example.com.
There's four. I only remember those two off the top of my head. I think
Example.net,
.net.
example.gov.
Yeah, .gov, yep. There's a website that actually, well, I mean, it's actually set up that so obviously this is for developers and so forth. So there's a website that says like that provides all the info on like all the registered domains. So as long as we commit to just using what are the internationally recognized registered example domains, then I think that should be the pathway we're going down. So, Dushi, are you happy to raise the TC or really just fix that? I don't even know if we need a technical correction. Can we just
Okay.
remove the .au?
Yes. Yeah. I'll fix that.
Let's make it an action, I guess. That could be
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Action on me to fix the example to remove .au from the endpoint address URL.
And then, yeah, I would be very happy to motion that uh we so what we're I would like to say we endorse the use of a registered example domains and accept any of the warnings that come out of just the usage of example domains.
And I'll second that.
Oh, cool. Beat me to it. Given we have a motion and a second, I will
Can I
launch
just
a
ask
poll.
a question a little bit more? The subdomains, that's allowed
It
because I put those
is.
subdomains in and nothing resolves. So I guess I'm just
Well, nothing will
wondering.
resolve anyway. If we didn't subdomain it, it still won't resolve. So that warning will be present for any usage of the internationally registered example domains.
Example.com, I get a website. I mean, I guess what's the point of all of this, but we can take that offline.
We can, although these are present as domains that you then put in more complex URLs. So the / sealed message delivery.svc would still exist and it won't resolve, obviously. And these are used throughout like most international specifications, including FHIR, as a safe means of constructing what would be a semi-realistic synthetic URL for something.
So it's just ensuring that we don't accidentally use a real organization's domain name by using example.com as the base.
Well, I think it's doing two things. One, it's preventing us from accidentally using a real thing. The other is that this is widely spread. It's not just digital health, it's across, defense, telecoms, banking. Like example.com is used everywhere. So a whole bunch of systems and automated testing platforms recognize what example.com, example.org are. So
Yeah.
it's a I guess a expected best practice for how you would construct what would be a syntactically correct URL, but that will not run into those problems for, yeah, running into real world stuff. So it does two things.
Also, a lot of tools will behave nicely with those addresses, even though they don't resolve in the usual way.
Exactly, because exactly, and I think that's why that was the intention from the technical community, from the international. I don't remember which standards committee started it, but they did. That's why they registered these international domains so that, like, it was known as part of a testing platform that these are real things, but they're real only a sense of examples.
Paul, you have
Cool.
a question?
There's also the potential for a malicious website to be set up after the fact as well to stop those kind of issues.
Mm.
Okay, given we have a motion and a second, I might launch the poll. Okay, poll is launched. Feel free to put in your votes and pop it in the chat if you are unable to vote or speak it aloud. All right, cool. I think everyone has voted, so I'm just going to end the poll. Show the results. So we have, plus the 2 in the chat, we have 22 affirmative and we have 3 abstain, so that motion has passed.
Thanks, everyone. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Cool, thanks, Sushi. I think, are you up, Danielle?
Yeah, I think that means am I next?
Yes, I think you're
Yes.
doing ballot scope review and confirmation.
Ah, yes, I managed to close down the slide pack. Let me just find it again. Give me just a moment. Um, and then I'll share my screen. Let me just find it. All right, almost there. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen when I find that button. Righto. I think, let me know when you can see the screen.
We can see it.
Perfect. Let me just go down to here we are. Righty. Oh, okay. So, last bit, let's run through the work that we've done this year and just confirm that we're happy to proceed into ballot. Um, and also address if anyone has any questions about this, or any concerns or any other kind of things sort of related to as we proceed into what is our ballot period for AU Core R3. Um, Now, this is the original release timeline that we'd put together, and we're actually completely on track. So, so the ballot period is coming up, which goes across August to September, and I've got specific dates on the next slide. Um, but this was basically the plan. And what we're then looking for would be publication for AU Core at really end of January, early February, depending on which governance group meets in which week, is what that will do. So That's what our overall time frame is still looking like. Um, but we will also start talking about R4 pretty soon, probably November, I think, which is what we did last year, and I think that worked well. But so overall time frame, just a quick recap there. And that means in terms of our development cycle, we're here now. We are the month before ballot, basically, and just ensuring that we have completed all the content that we intended to do, and we have, and that we have met all of our governance requirements, which we have, and we've just run through them. Thank you, Dushi. And then confirm with this group around the scope and what are the changes that we've included, that we're happy to continue to proceed. And at the end of this meeting, if we're happy to proceed, then I will let HL7AU know, yes, absolutely, we're still proceeding. And well, off we go. We go into ballot. So, ballot, the timeframes for the actual ballot voting period are going to be between the 5th of August, oops, and the 2nd of September. It's a 4-week period. And what will happen in that period is the consensus body that is formed out of those who have signed up to vote on whether or not they are happy to accept what we have proposed is a working standard, like the next release of the working standard, whether or not they are happy for that to proceed into publication. That's essentially what ballot for working standard is. And if they have any items that they would like to be addressed prior to publication, they would either provide feedback in and of themselves or vote on particular pieces of feedback that already exist. So even if you are not voting in ballot, what you can be providing is feedback that you think needs to be considered either in a future release or in the current release and things to be enhanced. And the ballot voters are able to vote on, well, they don't have to have raised it themselves. So that's what that period is a period of assessment for the consensus body to consider whether or not they are happy to approve for us to take this into actual publication and what, if anything, needs to be addressed. During that period, we're going to have a connectathon. And that's actually quite important because we have made quite a substantive set of changes in AU Core R3, some of which got tested yesterday. But I think we want wider and more comprehensive testing during the ballot period to confirm that the decisions that we've made around the new profiles, around anything around terminology bindings, are things that are actually working for the different use cases. So that's kind of the aim for us out of that connectathon. And I'll be at it, and I'm going to be asking anyone who is there to participate in testing out parts of AU Core to make sure that we have some really clear knowledge about how well the decisions that we've made are working. During the other things that have to happen to get to a ballot snapshot that comes out is, I mean, we apply the agreed changes. We also need to reconcile any of the AU base changes, as Dushi was running us through for endpoint. There are some normative, substantive changes in AU base, and we inherit those in AU core. So there's a bit of work there to make sure that what is happening for endpoint in AU base comes through to AU core. If it looks like anything is going to be a breaking change beyond what we've already considered, I think we would need to come back to this group and maybe raise that and be really clear on what has changed beyond what we'd already seen. I think there are some other kind of AU-based changes that we need to just confirm are all in place. And then we've just got, editorial stuff. Let's get commas right and bullet punctuation and diagrams and so forth, and do a bunch of QA checking. There's still a terminology review is underway, which is a pre-ballot terminology review. We do terminology reviews throughout the entire process, but we spend a couple of weeks prior to releasing the ballot snapshot to just make sure and double check everything is completely up to date. We're not using inactive codes, all that sort of thing. We go through and fix examples, and by fix examples, I mean we had a testing event yesterday, and there was a lot of good work that was put in terms of examples, but we want to review those because they were an initial release in order to support testing. And I think we got some good feedback actually out of the Spark testing event on maybe some additional examples and maybe some additional coverage that could be really useful. And we would look to try to fold those into the implementation guide. And just in general, it's your usual, let's version it correctly, make sure the changelog is up to date, and so forth. So the IG team is basically on the right, and that's Dushy and Jamie. That's Michael Osborne for terminology. That's also me, who's helping around editorial, and Brett, who is our HL7AU publication manager. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks until the publication date for the ballot snapshot is by the 29th of July. So it should come out, I think, that's a week prior to the ballot actually opening. Any questions around ballot preparation? Alrighty. So here is our scope. We have been incredibly productive, actually. We have done 5 new profiles, which is quite impressive. And this is the big stuff. This is composition, this is diagnostic report, this is medication dispense, endpoint and document reference. This is some of the, I think, really big kind of infrastructural things that drives a whole number of use cases across the ecosystem. So that's actually been incredibly impressive work. We've also uplifted medication statement. This is around no known meds. We've also done some things around medication request, organization, and the medication resource in and of itself. And associated with those are the updates around the capability statements, which have largely been driven around like what is the search support for composition, what's the search support for diagnostic report, etc. So that's really what we're seeing there. Now, let's have a peek at the changelog. See how long that takes to load. Alrighty. Is that big enough or should I zoom in one more for people?
It's good.
Okay, so like I said, massive amounts of work from this work group. We have look at all the different JIRAs here and the different kind of profiles that have been changed. We have essentially added a significant set of new profiles. We have defined what the minimum interaction support is for that across both the AU Core and Requester capability statements, including search parameters and what the requirements are, in particular around those search parameters, not just around the shalls and the shoulds, but which part of the search parameter, like the token or so forth, is actually what is expected to be exchanged. And we have some examples of that. And we've done that across a significant set of resources. And then one of, I think, the bigger changes, which has really been driven out of the work from HC Provider Directory or Health Connect Provider Directory. And while that's come through the Firework group, we have inherited that in AU Core, is the significant change around AU Core organization, where we have now inherited support for a set of new identifier types that are coming through. And Richard, you're on the line. Do you know if Services Australia is already issuing these new ones, or is that still forthcoming?
I don't know if they're issuing them yet. They have given us example values, but I don't know whether they're issuing them to real organisations.
But that's a this year thing?
Oh,
Rachel, yeah. I can confirm that there are HSPOs definitely in production right now. Yep.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Follow-on question from that, Rachel. Is that also then so there's the HI vendor test environment that Services Australia makes available. Is support for HSPO also in that?
That's a great question. I'm unable to answer that at this stage.
It's fine. Okay.
I have the examples which I had been thinking of letting trickle through as part of the ballot process, but maybe people would like the examples before then. Where should I send them?
If they're examples, and I know that sounded stupid.
Well,
if they're just
okay. they're
actual
not
example values that we
they're
could.
not file format examples, but what they are is they're values with various bits of information about the organisations, like name and phone number.
I think we should. Okay. I'll talk with you if offline. I think we should add them to the HL7AU test data set, which
That makes
has a
sense.
whole bunch of Services Australia hosted, agreed personas, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
including organizations for HPIOs and ABNs and NADA accreditation and so forth. And this seems to me to be the same sort of thing.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, I'll have a chat with you, and I think we should put a PR into the HL7AU test data repository for that. And depending on what's included and what the scope of the coverage is, we may also, and by we there I mean fire community, there may be reason to request more example values if there's any particular kinds of organizations or so forth in order to support things. And then I'm already thinking here like Heath, Jai around like the connected care track. I don't know if there's any call for HSPO organizations in that.
Not
Right.
specifically at the moment, but
Mm.
doesn't mean that we couldn't include it. There's an interest from the vendors that don't support.
Mhm. All right, so I'll work with you, Richard, to get to format the provided examples and make those available as part of the HL7AU test data repository so people can load it. Oh, Mandy, yes?
You're on mute, Mandy.
Rachel.
Sorry, just while we're waiting for Maddie. I was just going to say I've just reconfirmed. I may have been preemptive in saying that the HSPOs were in production, but I have confirmed there are some available in the HI service SVT environment.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I think production is imminent. So.
Oh, Mandy, I think we can hear you. Sorry, can you say that again?
Yes, I'm kind of wondering, Rachel actually covered one of my questions. Do you need other organizations, and is there any specific pre-requirements if you want to add to your repository or your backrow on the, for example, medical centers? I'm sure you would have the ambulance and other key organizations in, but are there any other organizations that you would need information to include in your testing? For example, NPP, for example, big medical companies like Full Health and others. You need those information. Can I be helpful in any way?
I think you can be helpful in suggesting the kinds of organizations associated with testing that we would want. What we are limited to is when they're national healthcare identifiers, including when they're test identifiers, so used for the purposes of testing. They have to be issued by Services Australia. So one of the things that we would do, and potentially out of the connected care scenario, or even out of new areas in AU Core, is that we are able to request from Services Australia a set of new kind of like organizations and identifiers that meet like criteria. Like, could I get what's a HSPO for? Like hairdresser? So which provides services into those people who are unable to do their hair themselves, but it's funded. So I don't know if that's like part of the kind of supportive identifiers. So we would be able to request that from Services
all
Australia.
of that.
Mm.
I can actually work. I do like to do volunteering. It helps me. It's also paid for the because one of the organizations close to my heart is the Bayside Health, and we call it Health Care Center, and they are also trying to get up scratch to their standards. Anything I can do and to affiliate or even to get them HL7 or fire ready. They are HL7 ready, but fire ready. I am very much happy. And even with your testing, if you put out a more professional case, please just let me know, and I'm happy to help you out in any capacity. I've learned a bit about coding, so I can kind of fast track and monitor things for you if you need things done. So
Okay, thank you, Mandy. Rachel, your hand is still up, Rachel. Is this a new hand or an old hand?
Sorry, apologies, old hand.
Okay. Okay, so organization has had exciting times. Um, and while they're not much support in AU Core, they have come through and we'll start to see some of those, and I think some of the supported use cases that use AU Core. One of those things then is we've removed an invariant, and that's part of expanding, I think, the set of different national healthcare organisation identifiers that Services Australia supports. And that has also, if you were doing ABNs and sending those through, you are now required to actually specify the code, and the code is ABN in that, and it was not a requirement before. So that's a bit of a breaking change there. And then the requester and responder capability statements have really just been updated to reflect all of this, as well as fixing an error we had where there was a parameter for searching for related persons, but we had put the incorrect URL to be like the clinical patient parameter instead of the related person patient parameter. So that's been fixed up. So that is really the scope of changes, or really the substantive changes. We've done a whole bunch of like informative ones, but this is, I guess, the big stuff that we've done in this particular release. Any questions, or does anyone want me to go into any more detail about any of these on like what's in scope of ballot and what have we done and why?
sorry, I got disconnected. I that I must come through. I forgot.
Sorry, Mandy, you're breaking up even more. We can't, I can't hear you.
That's okay. It's my connection. I apologize. I won't take any more time. I just stay back. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Mandy. Okay, so that's our scope. We've met all our prerequisites. We've included all the content we intended to do. We've done a walkthrough of what the state of this is, including any of our QA content. We've accepted the warning that is currently available. I say we're ready to ballot. And what I want to put to the group is, are we happy to proceed? I'd like to confirm that we're happy to proceed into ballot today, but I wanted to ask, are there any concerns or questions or objections that people would like to raise that we can walk through before we confirm, yes, let's go ballot? Let me just check. Can I even see people's hands? Okay. I'm not seeing anything in the chat about that, and I'm not seeing anyone's hands up. So I say let's go ballot. Wonderful. I will let HL7 Australia know that we are indeed going to proceed into ballot and go for R3. Fantastic. And thank you everyone for your hard work in the sheer amount of significant enhancements that we've really done to AU Core. It's been pretty significant. And it's been amazing that we've actually got that done in just like 6 months. It's quite huge actually, and it was really positive from the testing yesterday to see how much of it was working, and I'm really expecting that that will just get confirmed in the August Connectathon. But we can also take any of the, additional enhancements or advice out of that. So yeah, that was pretty great. Thank you. I'll hand over to, is this you, Michael?
It can be, or it can be you. Both of us. So yeah, looking to the next meeting, I did mention it earlier that we are going to do a more detailed report back from that Spark testing event yesterday. We'll also look to start talking about the encounter record project proposal. So there's HL7 Australia governance process there if we want to start up a new project. So we would prepare a proposal, which we'll look to create a draft between now and that next meeting. I'll bring that to the meeting. I'll also, given we've had 2 discovery workshops already, that one in Hobart in February, and we also had one last month, 2 months ago in Brisbane. I'll do a bit of a summary of what was discussed in those and the outcomes we've got to give people that were unable to attend those some background on what Encounter Record is all about and what we'll be looking to do. So we'll spend some time in that meeting doing that. We'll also have this meeting to deal with any last minute things we need to prep for ballot. So you'll see there that we're looking to publish the ballot snapshot on the 29th of July around that date. So this will be our last meeting before then to deal with any last minute things we need to deal with. And we've dealt with everything to date, but if anything comes up between now and then, we'll use that meeting to do that as well. And then the meeting after that, so we'll be live with ballot. Ballot will be open. So we'll go through on the 6th of August meeting, a sort of ballot 101 process, talk about what our process is in the work group, what we'll be doing over the coming months as we go through ballot resolution to get to AU Core publication. So that's the plan for the next couple of meetings. If anyone's got anything else they'd like on the agenda, you can let us know now or send us an email or contact one of the co-chairs if there's anything else that we think we need on any of those agendas, but otherwise that will be the plan. Oh, and yes, if you do want to participate in ballot, if you actually want to vote in ballot, this is the same slide from before. You need to sign up prior to 29th of July. So the sign up period closes before ballot opens. So you do have to be signed up before then, and you have to be an HL7 Australia member prior to that sign up as well. So if you're interested in voting as part of ballot, please do that now. So you're all set up and ready to go. That might be the end, Landon.
Yes, that is the end. Thanks, Michael. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Well done, Langdon. Cheers.
Thanks, Landon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.